Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Zanzal, coach, ordained minister, grandma, mama of four, and a queer woman married to my lovely, gorgeous wife after I came out later in life. This is Coming Out and Beyond LGBTQIA Plus Stories, a podcast for everyone exploring identity, queerness, and what it means to live more truthfully, no matter our age or stage. We share stories of coming out, starting over, resiliency, how to navigate relationships, grief, joy, and building lives that actually fit us as human beings. No labels required, just curiosity, courage, and a little faith in this journey. Welcome. Let's dive in.
First romantic relationships with a woman are intense, and for later in lifers, these relationships change everything. Being in a catalyst relationship can bring an enormous amount of joy, but they can also be fraught with difficulty. And if the relationship ends, it can leave you feeling lost. You don't have to go through this alone. The Catalyst Relationship, Women Loving Women, Navigating Love's First Chapter and Beyond is a course to support women who have had a Catalyst relationship. The course includes video lessons, exercises, and an online community where you can connect with others who have had a similar experience. Learn more about the course and sign up at annemariezanzal.com.
Today on my podcast, I have one of my favorite people, and that is Barb Rowlandson. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
For those of you who follow my social media content, you know Barb already. She is my podcast producer, and she helps me with online content, and she's a late in life lesbian like me. Barb and I have covered lots of topics together. We've discussed divorce. We've discussed the impact of coming out. We've discussed grief. We've discussed dating. But the one thing we haven't touched on yet, and we're going to cover it today, and I'm so excited to talk about this, is that Barb had a catalyst. I know. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, it is a term that we use in our late in life community. A catalyst in the context of queer relationships is an event or someone who wakens you to the realization that you might not be quite as straight as you thought you were. Sometimes it's a major life event like a death, an accident, a divorce, getting sick and recovering, that causes people to reconsider their sexual and gender orientation. Sometimes a catalyst can be a person, like you have a crazy crush on an actor or a musician or someone else in the public spotlight that you feel attracted to and you can't stop thinking about. But most often, a catalyst is someone you know and see in real life. In science, a catalyst is when a substance accelerates a chemical reaction. In the lesbian world, a catalyst rapidly brings up feelings of attraction. A catalyst relationship may or may not be requited. It doesn't always result in an intimate relationship, but for many it does. And Barb, in your case, you had an intimate relationship with your catalyst, right? So Barb has told our story, her complete story before on season 3, episode 2. So if you want to hear her coming out story, you can find the link in our notes for the show. But this time, Barb, tell me the story of your catalyst.
Well, look, Anne-Marie, if we're going to get really real, and hindsight is 2020, my real catalyst was Katie Lang. And especially, do you remember that photo that she did? There was like a
Cindy Crawford. I know
Oh
where
my
you're
God.
going.
that photo shoot. That photo made me gay for sure.
It's like for the people that are younger than us, that things like that were the thirst traps of the 90s.
For sure. And like that was sensational at the time that had come out. And I think it was the first time that I had seen a representation of sexual attraction between women that was sort of held up and celebrated rather than
Right.
vilified. So it really sticks out in my mind as a moment because I would have been a young teen at the time. And I remember like everybody was just agog at how sexy that photo shoot was. And I kind of remember like I being absolutely fascinated with Katie Lang and her gender like expression and how sexy it was and wanting to be Cindy Crawford.
Want to be Cindy Crawford,
Want to
or
be
did
Cindy
you
Crawford.
want to be done by Cindy?
No, I wanted to be the Cindy
Right. Cindy
Crawford.
Crawford. That's right. That's right. I'm getting confused. So we're going to put a link into this picture in the show for all the people that didn't see it and all the people born after this magazine was published. But it's a very significant photo. And I remember it as well as for those of you who don't know Katie Lang, first of all, we are a guest. But Katie Lang is an incredible singer. She's from Canada, like Barb, and she's a butch lesbian. She's super butch, and extremely sexy. Tanda has a Katie Lang story. She was in West Hollywood. For those of you who don't know, Tanda's my wife. She was in West Hollywood one time, and she went into a restaurant with some friends, and Katie Lang was in there, and she had three women sitting on her lap.
She really stepped into her sexual identity in the 90s, I think, in a way that nobody else was really doing at the time. And I can remember my dad, who was very LGBTQ friendly for, that his generation for sure. I can remember him saying he felt so sad because he was thought that her career would be over when she came out. It was not that he was so sad that she was gay. He was so sad that he thought her career would be over. And of course, happily, he was wrong.
Because I have a couple other Katie Lang stories okay, this is the last thing. She started her career here in Nashville. She was a country music singer. They did not know what to do with her.
I bet.
I'd like, and we should also post the picture of her in this country music dress. She defied what was expected of a woman in the 1980s. The funny thing is, I'm glad your father was wrong, and we are going to hashtag Katie Lang all over the place.
Yeah, I would say that probably set me up for a lifetime of sort of a underlying attraction for women who expressed themselves like in their clothing and their demeanor and their style. That was women who presented a little more on this masculine side. It set me up for a lifetime of just really being attracted to women like that. But I didn't quite connect the dots between sexual attraction and like it didn't the pieces didn't connect for me right away. For me, I always interpreted it as admiration. Admire her. Oh, I really admire her and how she's so distinctive.
But I'm an ally.
Admire her.
Really admire her.
Catalyst relationships are those first romantic relationships we have with a woman, and they are usually intense. Hi, I'm Barbara Rowlandson, and I'm a coming out and catalyst relationship coach at Anne-Marie Zanzal Coaching. I understand how catalyst relationships change everything, how they can come with extreme highs and lows and feel turbulent. I also know that when a catalyst relationship ends, the breakup can leave you feeling incredibly lost and unsure of where to go next. We've designed our course, The Catalyst Chapter, Women Loving Women, Navigating Love's First Chapter and Beyond, as a support for women who are experiencing turbulence in their catalyst relationship or recovering from heartbreak when the relationship has ended. The course includes video lessons, worksheets, and a community for connecting with others who have gone through the same experience. You can find and register for The Catalyst Chapter, Women Loving Women, Navigating Love's First Chapter and Beyond in Authentically Us, an online community for LGBTQIA+ women. Visit annemariezanzal.com for details.
So tell me the story of your catalyst.
So my catalyst actually, was on my radar before I had even met her. She was somebody who lived in my community. A lot of just by virtue of her position in the community, a lot of people knew who she was, including me and the work that she did. And I admired her. She was I wouldn't say she's, she was a super butch lesbian, but she was definitely presented more in like male clothing. She would wear suits and bow ties, and she was very dapper, that kind of thing, a little bit older than me. And I admired her from afar. I really thought she was somebody who was doing great work in the community, which she was. And I really wanted to meet her for a long time. I had seen Well, we met at an award ceremony and we had tons of friends in common. And, I had said to two friends who came to the award ceremony, like, you know her. Can you please introduce me? I'm just dying to meet her. I admire her so much. And we were up for the same award, I think. It was a women in the community kind of
Mhm.
awards thing. So I met her. I was introduced to her actually by two different friends and we hit it off right away. We became friends right away. And what started with a friendship eventually over months transitioned to some deeper feelings on both sides. She kind of confessed her feelings first, but I remember at the time I was like, no, no, I'm not doing I'm not gay. Meanwhile, I would go home at night and lie in bed and think about her.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had come
And
from
that goes excuse me for a second, but that goes to the old adage, straight girls don't lie awake at night wondering if they're gay.
exactly.
They might do it one night, 2 nights. I think it's very normal for young, college people to think about that stuff, but it's not something that you think about over and over and over and over again.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
you're laying in bed, you met this fantastic woman who you're still admiring her?
I was still admiring her. It wasn't until many months later that she confessed to having some feelings, but I was like, "Well, no, no, that's not possible." And that came after I had confessed to her that I felt like I had to leave my marriage, and that didn't have anything to do with her, but the two events kind of coincided pretty closely together. I was in a marriage for 21 years where we were and I don't wish to speak disparagingly about my ex-husband, but I do feel like we were very disconnected in many, many ways. I felt very lonely.
Mhm.
I felt
That's why you
sometimes
have so much time for your community
well,
doing
there
it.
you go. Yeah, I was lonely. I felt like, there was hardly any intimacy, and I feel like we both sort of did our own thing in the same house where he would play video games and I would do art projects or play my guitar or go out to open mic or just we would fill our own time and never really be super connected. It was like we were both living on this in a state of disconnect, and that was for a really, really long time.
Uh-huh.
So, I had actually earlier that year for the May long weekend here in Canada, one of my very dearest oldest friends and my sister and I took a road trip to Nashville. And my friend who I traveled with was a counselor and funeral director and grief counselor. And we had about 16 hours in the car together. And that's when it sort of came out like, I don't think I can stay in this marriage. Like, when is right to leave? When is it right? When the kids are done high school, when they're off in the world and getting married, like there's never a good time. So I had kind of decided like enough was enough. I was 45 and how much longer would I like to wait to be happy, to find
Mhm.
happiness? And it was after that trip and I came home and I talked to my catalyst who was just a friend at the time and I said, I don't think I can stay. And then at some point after that, she was like, I have feelings for you. And I was like, no, I'm not gay. But when I thought about it some more on those nights lying in bed, I realized that, I couldn't stop thinking about her in that context and what would that be like? And in fact, she had started dating another woman. And when she had told me about it, just like friends do, like gossip, hey, you never guess, I went on this date. She had told me about it. I can remember lying in bed and being jealous, wildly jealous,
Yeah.
you know.
Flag. You may not be straight when you get really jealous when your lesbian friend or a friend that's starting to explore this begins to date and all of a sudden you go, I want that to be me.
This was it. Okay. So, yeah, it was sometime after that when I worked up enough courage to say, "Yeah, yeah, I would try this with you." And, and we did. And it was I had kind of transitioned to living with my mom at the time. It first started with, like, sleeping on the couch a lot, sleeping in the spare room, and then it was like, I'm just gonna go live with
Mhm.
mom because I'm not
Mhm.
happy and we're separated, and that's when I started to explore, um, this relationship with her, and at first, like so many catalyst relationships, was earth-shatteringly
Sexy.
oh my gosh, everything. All the things, Anne-Marie. It was magical, it was wonderful, it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced before, and it wasn't just about, like,
Right.
finding a se wasn't just about sex, although the sex was, like,
Mind
entirely different than anything I had ever experienced before.
Well, yeah, because women know how to make love to each other. You know, I think I tell you, if you're an enterprising lesbian and you teach some straight men how to make love to
Maybe that's maybe that's a course we can work on together. Call it Finding the Doorbell because quite frankly,
yes, ringing the bell.
seriously, guys,
I see you, Pearl coaches.
like, "Okay, getting real, guys. How you
Okay,
doing?"
really, really hold that thought. Just really, but they did some sort of I follow this sex expert on Instagram. She said something like men, like 2/3 of all men can't locate a clitoris on the map of an anatomy of a woman.
This yeah.
That's scary. Okay, keep going.
But you're right, like, especially and being, with a woman who I mean, she was a lesbian,
Long-term lesbian.
long-term lesbian. So she knew what she was doing, and, well, and so did I, it turns out.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Is
Okay.
that a lot of people, when they've never slept with a woman before, they have a lot of anxiety about it. And you know what? The funny thing is, I don't know if you had any anxiety about like the actual act. I had none because guess what, folks? All of us, sex is sex and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, don't like that's probably the least thing you have to stress about. Even if your
Mhm.
partner is more experienced than you, a lot of people who've been out a while don't mind showing people the ropes, but they're not really hard ropes to learn.
No.
So they're
Yeah.
not. So, you know, don't stress about that. So you found out that you enjoyed the same thing and you enjoyed returning pleasure to her just as much as receiving.
Absolutely, like, we definitely clicked in the bedroom, but we also were going through this very powerful bonding experience outside of the bedroom, and she very, very rapidly became my whole world.
Mhm.
And this is where I think, so as people when we're in that sort of that dating phase and that courting phase, we do a lot of things that help, those bonding chemicals that percolate in our brain to help form attachment. And that's what we were going through. Our relationship transitioned from friendship. And I had figured, we're already friends. Like, I I know we're already friends. I know we already share the same values. I know we already care about the same things. Now I know that we really click in the bedroom. So we should just really fast forward this into a relationship. And at first it was very much about all of the wonderful bonding parts. It
Mhm.
unfortunately it isn't until a little bit down the road when that sort of bonding phase is kind of over and
Mhm.
you start to transition more into relationship building, I would say. I think that's a fair thing to call it. That it started to become really apparent that we were not compatible to live together.
For a long-term relationship.
Oh, there was no way. We were very, very different people. There was, and from my end, I felt like there wasn't a lot of sympathy for what I was going through as far as ending my marriage. And it was not a topic that I could really approach her about because she'd get very angry very, very quickly.
So I have a couple of things to say about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very normal if you're dating somebody who has been out a long time and you're going through a divorce
Mhm.
and there's a lot of grief going on. Listen to our grief episode. And frankly, I'm gonna say it, we're a mess. We are a mess, absolute mess. And so my wife wrote a really good article about if you are a long-term lesbian and you're in your 40s and 50s and you're dating a newbie. She some really great solid advice in there. So we're going to again link this to this show. But also too, I think the mistakes we made, Barb, is that because we were newbies in our relationships, because both of us dated long-term lesbians in the beginning, we are used to having women as friends. And so the problem is that we talk to our catalyst, your girlfriend, we talk to them like we would a friend, like a female friend. But this is the thing is yes, they are your friend, but they are also your lover.
Mm.
They are also your girlfriend, maybe partner. And so it's very painful often for them to hear about all the stuff with an ex husband that maybe in the back of their mind that they may be still a little worried that you'll say, "This is too hard and I'm going to return to him." And so all that worry is going on for the other person in the relationship. The thing is that I think that if you are someone new and you're coming out and you're dating someone who's been around for a while, find other people to talk about all the stuff
Yes.
going on with you. Therapist, a coming out coach, friends, Facebook groups, but really save think of it. Would I tell my boyfriend this?
Mhm.
We're
Mhm.
new because we're just new. We don't know. You
Yeah.
ask yourself before you say to your catalyst or the woman that you're with, would I tell this to her if she was my boyfriend about my ex husband or something like that?
Yes, and I really underscore something that you said there. Talk to another friend, talk to a therapist. I did talk to other friends for sure, but they were my straight friends. So while they could give me a lot of sympathy or sympathetic ear, and I'm sorry you're going through this. They didn't understand, like, they on a more fundamental level, they didn't get it. So, this is why, and I have said this to you, I don't know how many times, Anne-Marie, I wish I had had coaching at that time in my life. It would have helped me so much to be in a community of people who were going through the same.
Yeah, similar things. Not everybody has a catalyst, but a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It would have helped so much to talk to people who just have a deeper understanding of
So, how long after you moved out of your marital home did you move in with?
I would say I moved out for real on July 5th, but I had already been kind of going back and forth, like, to my mom's place. I'd kind of already done a
All our US people are laughing right now because July 4th is Independence Day and they don't have.
well, there you go. Yeah, so I moved out on July 4th, and I think by mid-September, I got tired of, and we had collectively got tired of me going back and forth from my mom's to her place, and
Mhm.
so I just shacked up there. And to me, this was like the greatest thing ever. I mean, yay, I'm getting to leave the marriage that, had left me really deeply unsatisfied for a long time and transition directly into this wonderful relationship where, it was feeding me in all the ways that I felt that I hadn't been fed before. It was, still within the same community that I lived in. So, I wasn't far from my kids. I had shelter. I had security. I felt like I had hit the jackpot. But in fact, what I was going through was this deeply tumultuous, deep grieving, and what eventually became a very, I don't want to say combative, but what would happen because we weren't compatible to live together. I felt like, she had a very quick temper and was always quick to anger and very confrontational. And I spent a lot of the time trying to change my behavior and what I did around the house to be able to placate her. Eventually, the longer I spent with her, I mean, it's tragic, and I think this happens for a lot of women who have a catalyst relationship that starts to go, is you work so hard and spend so many years thinking about leaving your marriage with your husband. You go out and you have your Independence Day and you reclaim your independence. But for me, I was becoming a shell of who I was before. I was robbing myself of independence by diving straight into this relationship. And not only that, but it was changing who I was to placate her so she wouldn't be angry. So what I found was I was doing, like, scrubbing the grout on the bathroom tiles to make sure she wasn't angry because the bathroom wasn't dirty, ironing her sheets,
So you
you know
became a housekeeper.
I became her housekeeper, and it was complicated by a lot of excessive alcohol use. I discovered after moving in pretty quickly that there was a lot more drinking going on than I had realized.
No, she was basically a functional alcoholic.
Basically, I remember just standing in the garage with so many alcohol bottles of empties and just crying because I hadn't realized that it was this bad. With alcoholism, I think comes with some volatility for sure. Was hurt. Um, I just became more of a shell of myself who walked eggshells around her because I didn't want to set her off. Like, it could be something as easy as, she had a towel for hand drying and a towel for drying dishes at her kitchen sink. And if I used the wrong towel to dry my hands, that could set off like an evening of argument and
It's
disconnect.
exhausting.
It was exhausting for me. It was exhausting for my kids when they came over because it was like,
And shells. Yeah.
well, true. Like I felt like, when you have kids, and my kids were 13 and uh 17 at the time, to have them come over and feel like, what if they put a cup down on the coffee table without a coaster? Like, the anxiety over that was just sky high. I was and because I was going through this, plus, you know, just to keep it interesting, I was also going through something at work where I took a leave of absence for work. I was being sexually harassed at work.
Mhm.
And, the combination of the sexual harassment, the difficulties that seemed to just pop up in this relationship, I became quite sick and I had to take a leave of absence of work. I was off work for 6 months. I was having all kinds of scopes and things trying to figure out what was wrong with me. But really, it was just my body like saying, too much.
Too much change, too much change. And also too, I just wanna note something. I noticed, as Barb and I are talking here, her chest is starting to get super,
Yeah,
super red.
yeah.
And so all this trauma can really become in our bodies.
Mm,
And remembering this trauma and talking about this is causing Barb to get like all blotchy in her skin,
mhm.
which is completely normal.
Oh,
Every
yeah.
has physical reactions to things. So if this conversation is causing you, the listener, to have some sort of reaction, we may even put a little warning, like a trigger
Disclaimer,
warning.
trigger
Yeah, a
warning.
little trigger warning because I can see this triggering my dear friend.
Mhm.
And what I know is that when we get done with this, I'm going to really ask Barb to go out and take a walk, take a shower. A really another wonderful one a way you can embody is to use your five senses to name something you can smell, taste, hear, touch, and see. And so, like, really grounding yourself again, if you're hearing this conversation and you're like, shit, I thought I was the only one. This has happened to me. So and I also want to give you a lot of love, Barb,
Thank you.
because like, first of all, I understand how hard it was.
Yeah.
I really do. I physically like crashed too. I lost 25 pounds when I came out because of all the change and transition and stuff. So
Oh,
I completely hear you. So how long did you live with her actually?
it wasn't long. I had moved in September, and then I was out by February.
Okay. So,
So,
like, this is not gonna work. I'm not well, first of all, congratulations.
oh, thank you.
That is really quick. Sometimes people end up I just had a friend here who she U-Hauled and she came back and she was visiting with us. She's back here. She U-Hauled to another state and she U-Hauled in December and she said to us, I should have left in February. And that was year and a half ago. So, and she just moved back. So I want to give you incredible kudos for leaving a toxic situation was
Yeah.
damaging to you and your babies.
Yeah, it was absolutely, I mean, I could see the writing on the wall for sure. One of the last things that we did together, as a couple, one of the last events that happened was her sister had passed away tragically, unexpectedly. And we went to the funeral, and instead of and I knew it was happening. I mean, she was already spending time with this other woman and overnight, a person who was a friend, who is now her partner. We had gone to her sister's funeral, and she sat me on the exact opposite side of the church where the funeral was. And so I can remember, like, for me in my mind, that was like, this is it. Like, partners sit together and comfort each other. Partners are there for each other in these like really devastating moments. And instead of having me sit beside her as her partner, she put me way on the other side. So while she was crying for her sister, I was crying because I knew this was the end. And then it pretty much happened, like, immediately after that in very tumultuous way, and I went back to my mom's,
Mhm.
and had
My my question is, I have just a question of curiosity about your catalyst. You've been with a bunch of other women that were just coming out before?
uh, I believe her ex-wife was new too. Like, she was a late lifer too.
Sometimes in the queer community, there are women that like to date married women. And basically, the joke is about the toaster oven, right?
You
You
converted
know,
one?
read that article too in my blog. My wife wrote that one as well. But it's very interesting. It's like, it's not all the time. Once in a while, you'll meet somebody and they really do just date married women. Sometimes the married woman leaves their husband for them.
Mhm.
Sometimes they don't. But it doesn't sound like your catalyst was. But a lot of
I
times
would
they have yeah, a lot of times they do, and so that can be if you meet somebody and she's like, "Oh, yeah, I date married women all the time." That's you have to yeah, you have to ask yourself, "Okay, what scares you about being with a woman that's available to the person who doesn't?"
Yeah.
Okay, I got another question for you, and this
Mhm.
might be a little hard one for
Okay,
you.
lay it on me.
Did it make it easier to leave your marriage knowing that she was out there?
Yeah, yeah, I think it did. I think if I'm really honest about it, I felt like there was this other possibility that was right around the corner waiting for me. She isn't the reason why I left, but I would say knowing that she was there and that there was a possibility to start something there if I wanted to, made me feel like I wouldn't have to be so alone. And in reality, being alone would have been if I could give a piece of advice to people who
Mhm,
are coming out later in life, and especially after a catalyst, take a break,
mhm,
be alone, be alone for a bit. It might feel scary, especially if you've been in a long-term marriage and you don't have a lot of experience being alone.
mhm.
But that period of time that you take for yourself to learn about who you are outside of the context of a long-term marriage, rediscovering who you are. It's a golden moment, feel.
And you can date. I mean, you don't have
Yeah.
to get into a relationship right away. I mean, I think I'm going to be really honest too, is that I met my she was my girlfriend and then my partner and then my wife. But I met her right when I was leaving my marriage. And I really thought I was going to be alone for like 6 months or a year or something like that. I was really sort of looking forward to that time. It's really, I go both ways with it, honestly. I mean, like, our marriage is relatively good. We have our ups and downs, but it is a good marriage. I believe my relationship with my wife has given me so many things, so many amazing things. And I think it really directed me into this work. I think she gave me the crash course on being a lesbian because my wife is a very secure queer person. She's done all the work years and years ago, but I needed some time alone. And so it was really like in the beginning of our relationship, I really thought about breaking up just because I needed to be alone for a while, but we also had so many good things. So I've made my peace with that, but I do agree with Barb. I think it's really important to have, even if it's 6 months, having some alone time when you come out of your marriage. If you don't, you will work your way through it and you'll have and in 4 or 5 years you'll say that was a good decision or ooh, that was a bad decision. People do it all kinds of ways. But I do agree with Barb, if you can have some time to yourself in the beginning after you leave a marriage that you've been in for a while and you're going from the straight world to the queer world, if you can have some alone time, I highly, highly recommend it.
I really feel like that is a time, if you can have that time where you get to, I mean, this is going to sound like I'm full of cliches, but reintroduce yourself to yourself. Discover who you are.
Mhm,
Maybe it's as simple as I changed the way I drank my coffee when I left my marital home.
mhm,
I'd always
mhm,
drank it the way he drank it because
mhm,
that's how he prepared it.
mhm.
Or, hey, I don't like scrambled eggs. I'm going to start making my eggs over easy now. But
Yeah.
you always made scrambled eggs. It's interesting when I did finally get that piece of time on my own, it came later. I did a lot of redecorating. I painted every wall in my house pink, hung a bunch of chandeliers. I really visually put my stamp on my space to make
Mhm.
it feel like it was a reflection of me. And part of that was just a creative way of figuring out who I am and expressing myself and not having to ask anyone's permission to do it. It was my decision, and I got to make the final decisions. I got to hang the wallpaper. I got to, like, and it felt so good to create that space that was a reflection of me. But while I was working on the outer stuff, I was also processing inner stuff.
And what was it like when you moved back home to your mom's? What was the end of that relationship like for you emotionally?
I would say it was truly the hardest thing that I have ever gone through in my life.
Mhm.
I know, and you have a blog piece about catalysts, where you say that you've never had your heart broken, truly, until you've had it broken by another woman.
That's
I agree with that statement 150% for
if
sure.
you're gay. Yeah.
Yeah, because we do like there was nothing I could do to fix it, and there was nothing I could do that was ever going to get us back to that magical space that were in at first, So it was truly, in I think, the truest sense of the word, devastating, because I had lost my home. I was no longer living with my children. I was physically sick. I was taking a 6-month leave of absence from a job where I was not going to go back, so I was out of work. A lot of my stuff, I never reclaimed it. I'm, still to this day missing things like baby photos, and, like it was almost like my life had caught fire and burned to the ground. And I spent a lot of days in bed with the blankets over my head in the dark, just trying to recover, just trying to cover. It was truly the most depressing, most challenging time of my life, for sure.
So how did you recover?
Well, slowly.
Yeah.
With This is the part where I could get emotional. Is the most important person in my life is my sister.
Mhm.
So I would say she saved my life. I'm really lucky to have her.
Mhm.
Okay, deep breath. Ooh. I brought these books out because she gave them to me when I was in that state. She got me these.
What are they? What books?
They're called Goodnight
Right.
Songs for Rebel Girls.
I know.
I love these books so much, and they're children's books, actually, and they're all illustrated by different, like, every illustration is done by a woman, and it features women from history, like from, thousands of years ago to today, who have accomplished incredible things. There's Amelia Earhart, nice one. And
Possible lesbian.
there you go. Yeah, helped me so much. So there were so many amazing, there were short stories. So actually being written for children for me at that time was probably not a bad thing, because I also couldn't concentrate at the time, like, just going through this heavy grief. And she gave me these books. She said, I learned about them from somewhere. I had them for someone else, and I'm going to give these to you, and hopefully you'll find some inspiration. And reading these very short, easy to consume stories that were very, very inspiring. Once I read these stories, I felt like, oh, okay, there's been a lot of women out there who have gone through things that are much, much harder than what I am going through right now. They have been through war. They have been through disease. They have been through discrimination. They have surmounted the odds in ways that people would think weren't going to be possible, and they did it. So reading these stories really helped me to um think, like, put that idea in my head of, if they can do it,
Can do it.
I can do it.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's what changed my mindset. And I was able to move forward thinking, I'm not going to feel like this forever. I'm going to be okay. And I guess the other piece of advice, again, given to me by my sister, was, just move forward incrementally. Don't feel like you have to consider, like, the whole problem was like, I have no place to live, I need a new job. Like, don't think about you have to solve all these big problems right away.
Absolutely.
Baby steps forward. And then when you have like 10 baby steps, it turns into one big step.
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of times I find with our clients, is that they focus on so many different things. Only it's just one little step at a time. And I agree with Barb. It's like all of a sudden take 10 little steps and you have a giant step. And
Mhm.
so, You don't have to, if you're going through, if you've left your marriage because of a catalyst and it's not working out and you're considering leaving your catalyst or you have left, you don't have to figure everything out.
No. And this is also, again, circle back to, well, the kinds of support that you need at the time. Again, this is another reason why I wish I had had Lotus Group coaching,
Mhm.
because to work with a coach, not just like a therapist who helps you process what you're going through, but I think with coach mindset, it's very much about, we're going to set a goal for you and
Right.
how are we going to achieve that goal?
Right.
And that would have helped me so much, I think, to have that kind of guidance to getting those baby steps, turn into big.
Well, and the thing is that, therapists are more, I'm a big believer in therapy, but they help you process the emotions. They may link it back to certain ways of behaviors, certain experiences and stuff like that. While a coach is much more focused on, my type of coaching is group coaching, so it's more focused on community, resources, and what, like Barb said, planning more for the right now
Mhm.
and the future. Not, and I do obviously have counseling experience so that I can help you do some of the past work. But it's really more about, okay, how are you going to do this? From the emotional, spiritual standpoint, but from also the real practical standpoint of someone who's been there, someone who's divorced in the United States, someone who's divorced in Canada. We have like really practical advice. And
Mhm.
so, um,
Yeah, it's
um,
very future focused, right? I like that.
yeah, it's future focused. And so, a couple of questions. When I hear you talk about that time and I hear like how devastated you were, I was very devastated too. Do you have any regret?
I don't regret leaving my marriage. It was something I had processed a lot. I regret leaving as quickly as I did. I regret, if I could change it, I would have acknowledged those feelings that I was having for my friend and left my marriage and put those feelings on hiatus, put them on the back burner until I processed leaving, until, I had figured more stuff out for myself. I could have left in a better way than
Hmm.
I did. So
Hmm.
that I regret. Do I regret leaving? No. No, I still maintain it was the right thing to do for me. I wasn't willing to put up with more of the same for the rest of my life.
Oftentimes, when people leave their spouses for a catalyst, the catalyst and the spouse have a lot in common. Because as human beings, we are often attracted to the same type of person, whether
Mhm.
we're there in a male body or a female body. Do you regret your relationship with your catalyst?
And that's a tough question because there was so much about that relationship that was so damaging, but just to make it complex, there was also so much about that relationship that was revealing.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, I mean, it's possible that I would have arrived at the same realization without her. And it's also possible that I might not have. And I think what I have claimed in my life by going through that experience was like I'm grateful for the experience of learning that I have the capacity to love women the way that I do.
Mhm.
And that alone has transformed my life greatly because not only have I found greater fulfillment in intimate relationships with women, but it's also led me to the partner who I have now. But it's also led me it's led me to a more authentic version of myself. And I guess that's really the big reveal here is
Mhm.
that I've learned something about myself, what makes me happiest.
Mhm.
So I
And
guess in the end, I guess no, I don't regret it. There were some things about that relationship that were regrettable, but I
yes.
don't regret the relationship.
And the reason why I ask that is because when people hear us be very honest what this experience is like coming out later in life, it can sound scary. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to go through all that pain. Oh my God, what if I start dating somebody that's not good for me? But all these things. But this is the thing is I'm gonna push back gently on Barb. I think you probably would have come out if it wasn't with her, it would have been with somebody else because I think that the universe is always us calling us to be the most authentic we can be in this world.
Mhm,
So, but the thing is that yes, all of this was painful for us. Parts of it were incredible,
mhm,
joyful. Just because something is hard doesn't mean we regret it.
And hard things are often the things that are most worth doing.
And this is the thing is that, yes, you can do, if you're listening to this, if you've had a catalyst, if you may not have had a catalyst, but you're thinking you're gay and you're like, oh my God, what if that happens to me? May or may not. But this is the thing is that I think from every experience in life, we always learn something, you know? And Barb's a big old gay now. So I'm very thankful to
Goddess.
thank her that she came along and made Barb realize that she is not straight.
Yes.
Because what would I do without my co-conspirator?
Oh, babe.
We're going to make the whole world gay by the time it's done.
Bells and glitter everywhere, Anne-Marie.
And as unicorns, I'm going to go ride my... Look, behind me is my little dragon slayer who rides a unicorn.
You've been listening to Coming Out and Beyond, LGBTQIA+ Stories with Anne-Marie Zanzal. New episodes of the Coming Out and Beyond podcast drop every other Friday. You can tune in at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and at annemariezanzal.com. Be sure to hit subscribe when tuning in so you never miss an episode. And for more resources, articles, videos, and a free downloadable guide for coming out later in life, visit annemariezanzal.com.